Hello YouTube, I want to talk to you about the Kawasaki H2. I have been noticing a lot of special bikes ever since like the HP4 came out a couple years ago. The manufacturers are stepping their game up quite a bit, and I believe that HP4 was about a $40,000, or excuse me, a $30,000 bike. Um, Now the H2 is completely redesigned. I mean, there's never been anything like it ever. Silver in the paint so that it mirrors. I mean, the quality in that thing is amazing. We've got now the Superleggera Ducati. That is like $65,000, and you had to put your money down pretty early to get one because they only did I think it was like 150 in the US and 500 worldwide. And the only real special thing about that was it was powerful, I guess, couple hundred horse supposedly, which I wouldn't have put my money on, but that's what it was supposed to have been. And it was quite light, just under 400 pounds, like 390 or so, which isn't a lot lighter than the 1199 R models or 1299s. Those are only about 410 or so. So not really super special, I don't think, but they had some nice pieces and components on them, and that's what made them so wowy. And now we've got the RC213, and I thought it's been so long since Honda has done anything with their real world-class leader bike that this thing was going to come along and just kick everybody else's ass so far away that they will never find their way back. Well, unfortunately, that was a fluke because this thing's supposed to be like 100 horsepower, cost $184,000. So you might as well forget ever touching one of those, and why would you wanna? I mean, it's supposed to be a race bike, but so is my ZX10, and that was $11,000. So, I mean, how much better could that bike really be? Maybe enough to where the average Joe would notice, but I seriously doubt it. So back to my point, the H2, I mean, the fact that you can buy a race version of that bike that's got 300 horsepower for $50,000 that will make the heavens cry when they hear it running, I mean, there's never been anything to compare it to. So, case closed on that one. Oh, and you can, of course, buy the street version, which also is an ass kicker, for $25,000. I mean, that's almost too good a bargain not to go get one. Unfortunately, you probably are running out of luck because there might not be a lot more coming. But I hope Kawasaki keeps those in the picture. I think they will because they're seem to be hugely successful. My local dealer's gotten two of them. They've both sold. And like I said, there's something that pretty much even I could own. So, it's just an amazing thing that Kawasaki did for the motorcycle market in general. And I salute them to the nth degree because to bring that kind of technology and craftsmanship, it's just amazing to me. And I'm sure to all the guys that actually own those bikes. And so we go to the quick shifters. Well, performance does not equal longevity. So when you've got a BMW with a quick shifter that's got 20,000 miles on it and it's failing, what has it done to your transmission from the time it started to fail? I would hate to think of the thousands of dollars somebody's going to have to pay simply because they needed that little piece of equipment on their bike. Now, I've had the pleasure of riding a 2010, the first year I think they came out, BMW with a quick shifter. I'm not a gadget guy. I didn't think I'd like it. It was amazing to use. You don't have to let off the throttle. And on the new ones, you can even downshift without having to let off the throttle. On the older models, you could only upshift, which was cool in itself. So, if somebody offered to put one on my bike for me, it would have to be for free, and I wouldn't use it all the time. But for those times when maybe fractions of a second matter, which really is never in my life, so it just doesn't matter to me to have something like that on my bike. They're fun, yes. And you can say it's got a quick shifter, sounds real cool. So I guess if those things are what you want, then you definitely need a quick shifter. The idea of making a 200 horsepower plus motorcycle make more power, or even, pretty much any of today's bikes are plenty flat. They're going to get you to where you want to go in a major hurry. Even 600s. Not you can wind a 600 out to the max all the time. You're going to have a lot more trouble doing that with a like a ZX10 or even my Z1000. You're going to be holding on for dear life and probably go out of control a lot quicker and kill yourself. So the idea of adding more power to the tune of 10 to 20 maybe horsepower, and if you really spend a lot of money, maybe 30, 40 horsepower, it's almost a ridiculous thing. And if you do have to do that, you also have to take into consideration the only way to get more power is, fuel. So you're going to be burning more gas. Turbos and superchargers push the engine harder. They are efficient in the fact that, they either suck in air with a supercharger or they use your exhaust in the case of a turbo. But still, they're spinning that engine that much faster, making it work that much harder. So there goes your reliability to some, maybe they'll last 50,000, but it's taken away from the engine to some degree. So that's something to consider. But it all comes down to what you want in the end. If you absolutely need that performance and you're racing with everybody you find and you have to win, then you gotta do it. If a high performance bike isn't enough and you do have to spend the money, are you going to really be able to handle it? And would that money be better spent on gear to make you safer, or riding schools, some place that was safe to where you could really develop your skills and where you knew you could use that power before you got it? Say you can max out a ZX10 on every track that you bring it to, and nobody's competition for you. Then I'd say it's probably time to, start squeezing every last horsepower you can out of your bike. The other thing, of course, is going fast costs big money if you do get caught. Being smart, I would say, trumps bragging rights as far as, who you beat down the street or whatever. With a guy that's had 33 points on his license at one time, I can say you pretty much won't be able to afford to drive when you get to that point. And I certainly wouldn't be able to own a bike if I get to that point. So I just don't see where it would really benefit you in the long run. I mean, short little stints every now and again is one thing, but when that's what you're building your bike for, is just to go balls out all the time, it's probably going to catch up with you in one way or another. And also the speedometer error for guys who think that when they're doing 170, they're actually doing 170. The faster you go, the more speedometer error you have. When you're doing 60, you're probably only doing like 57 or so. And when you're going 200, you're probably doing 170, 175. So, don't let that be too big of an influence on your life either. Getting 10 or 20 horsepower by letting your bike breathe in and out the hiney pipe, I just don't see the cause for it. The idea that the H2 has so much power down low because of that supercharger, I'll bet it's pretty close to comparable to even say that Z1000 that makes its power at 7,000 RPMs, because down low that thing pulls like nothing I've ever ridden before, and I've owned speed triples and Busas. Just the idea that it's 100 pounds lighter than a Busa, and it's just that it's so strong. I mean, it's unbelievable compared to something as smooth as a like an inline triple, like the speed triples. And the one that I had actually had off-road pipes, and it was chipped, so it was putting out as much as it possibly probably could. Maybe not as much, but it was pretty much to the max. And really it feels nothing like the Z1000 completely stock. So having an engine like that, I'm sure, is somewhat comparable to that H2, and like I said, it doesn't need a supercharger to do it. I think the platform for that H2 actually is the ZX10, and the idea that they put a supercharger on that to squeeze out really no more horsepower than that motor can make all on its own, and does make it all on its own in other countries, tells you what good all that stuff actually does. Now, once again, it's amazing that they did that, but was it really necessary? Well, I don't really think so for an extra $10,000, but that's the name of it. So anyways, enjoy Life on Two Wheels.